All dreams considered. All dreams considered. All dreams considered.
Welcome back to All Dreams Considered with Sarah. Today I'm sitting with Frank Morin, who is a pretty prolific author. You've got
Trying to be.
several series. Can you tell me how you got started writing?
Sure. Well, I always loved reading, and I loved writing too when I was younger. And then I figured I would be a writer when I was in high school. And then I get distracted because computers started becoming a thing, and I got sidetracked into a computer programming career. And then when my kids were young, a couple of interesting events happened that kind of reminded me how much I love to write, and so I started writing. And I spent like 4 years working on my first epic fantasy novel. It was this huge monstrosity that was totally unpublishable, but I loved it. And I finally learned enough to realize it wasn't going to work. So I threw it away and I redesigned it and spent 2 more years rewriting it. And I haven't released that one yet. I spent several years kind of stuck in the traditional publishing slush pile process.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of bigger publishers look at it and say, wow, we really love this, but no, we're not going to buy it, which was unfortunate. But in the process, I started writing my other books, and then indie publishing became kind of a thing that actually works.
Right.
And with the Amazon publishing and some of the other ones, and so my traditional track kind of fell apart. I'm not going to go into all that, so I was like, fine, I'll just start releasing these myself. I had 6 books done, or at least first drafts done at the time, and back in 2015 I started putting them out there.
Nice.
And I've been doing it ever since. I got 15 books out right now, and
15.
3 or 4 other ones written that aren't released yet, and working on a new project that I'm very excited about.
So here's a word from our sponsor at Inner Oasis.
Welcome to Inner Oasis Mind, Body, Spirit. We're in the heart of historic downtown McMinnville, and we offer you inspiration, tools, and gifts for the soul.
So you're a family man. How do you find time for this?
Oh, it's a challenge sometimes. When I first started writing, I did not have much time. So I would spend my commuting time to and from work thinking about stories, and at lunch breaks I would go take a walk, just plan what I was going to write. And then at home, after I got my wife and kids, they were asleep, I would write from about 11 p.m. until I couldn't see anymore. And I'd get up the next day and do it again.
So
and then every few months I would get really sick because I was pushing it too hard.
Well, but sleep deprivation leads to great stories.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Other times it leads to just the letter M 1,000 times on the keyboard. Thankfully that's easy to delete.
Yes.
But so that's how I get started. And then I realized I love writing, but my current career was not going to allow me to do it.
Oh.
So I changed careers. It took me a couple of years, but I started my own consulting business, computer consulting, and I went off, and the first couple of years of that, I had to travel a lot. So again, I still didn't have much time.
Right.
But then just as we were moving to Grants Pass, Oregon, I was able to change it to work remote, kind of doing remote support and things like that for hospitals. And that allowed me to finally write more. And that's when my writing started taking off a lot better because I could put more time into it. But yeah, that took me like 4 years to change my life to the point where I could write.
Wow.
And
so did you ever think about giving up during that time?
Oh, of course. I mean, you always do. And then you release a book, and then, your mother buys it, nobody else buys it. It's
Right.
like, oh, come on. But people have enjoyed my books. But everyone has difficult times. Some of the, delays I had going through.
Rose City Comicon guests, the legend himself, Brian Michael Bendis, will be signing at his table in Artist Alley for the next hour.
So yeah, there's always low moments, but I write books that I love to read. I think I'm my own biggest fan. And sometimes I'll pick up one of my books to just research something, make sure I remember how I did it right. And then I'll start reading a chapter. I'm like, this is so good. And then my wife will walk into my office and tease me. She'll be like, are you reading your own book again? No, I'm doing research. So I write books that I love. So even if nobody else loved them, I do. But You know, people love them. They, especially at events like this, they feel my enthusiasm and they respond to it.
So how do you get it edited and all of that? I mean,
that's a good question. I have a freelance editor I work with, and you know, these days I know several writers who don't edit and don't use an editor.
Sounds risky.
And their thought process is readers want another book fast, and they don't care if there are mistakes. I've had authors tell me that, and I don't prescribe to that myself. I try to make the very best books I possibly can, because I want you to not only buy the book and read it, but read it again and again and again. So I take a little longer, and I write bigger books, so that takes a little longer. But to me, it's worth it. And I have an amazing editor who points out all the things I do wrong. And that can be hard sometimes, but that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And that's how you make your stories better.
Right. So how do you write? Do you start at the beginning and go all the way to the end? Do you write piecemeal, like here's a chapter, oh, I need to figure out how to connect these chapters?
That's a good question. I like to outline enough to know the major milestones in the story. And sometimes while I'm doing that, I'll write bits and pieces of some of those kind of major scenes. But once I have it figured out, I write from the beginning to the end. And when I'm doing first drafts, I actually dictate. So I'll go take a hike on hiking trails near my town, and I'll bring a voice recorder and headset, and I'll just go hike for 5 or 10 miles, and I'll dictate 4 or 5 chapters. And then I bring that home, and I have it transcribed through some software I use. And then I have to go through and edit it, because the software gets a lot of things wrong.
Right, but you need to edit it anyway.
Yeah, but that's the first draft. And I get to go get some exercise while I'm working, and get a lot of people to look at me weird.
That's great, though.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, what a great way to multitask. And so you have 15. Could you give me a quick overview of the different series that you have?
Sure. I have 2 main series out. First one is The Petrolist. It's my epic young adult fantasy series. And I tell people it's big epic adventure, lots of humor, really cool magic based on rocks. And then The Face Takers is a fast action fantasy adventure set in the near future that goes back into history with magic.
Oh.
So fun stuff.
Very fun.
Yeah.
And you say there's 15 books.
So The Petrolist has 7 main titles and 3 prequels, and then the Face Takers has 4, and
there's another one.
There's another one somewhere.
Well, there's the one that you haven't published yet.
Yeah, I have 4 other books I've written that I haven't published.
Yeah.
But The Face Takers, I also took book 1 and 2 and combined them into one book as a special edition, which is available as ebook only right now, but just called The Face Takers. And because a lot of people I love your stories, but I have to read book 1 and 2 to kind of get the full initial arc.
Right.
So I said, great, I'll just fix that. So at some point we might just make that a paperback too, and then it'll be a 3-book series instead of 4. I don't know. We can play with it.
There's so many options now.
Yes,
and you have
many
your own publishing company, right?
Yes. I'm an indie published author, so I created an actual publishing company, LLC, to just track all that legally.
Okay.
And, so I haven't taken other writers' works and published those. I haven't done that yet. I may at some point, but I've been so busy doing my own, it hasn't been worthwhile.
I always recommend to people to do the stuff they love, and it sounds like you're already doing that.
I am.
And maybe you could do a class on how other people can make their own publishing company.
Yeah, we could talk about that.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up all your time here. Thank you so much for taking a few moments out of your day.
Absolutely, it's been fun. Comicon has been a blast. So
yeah, it's so great to see all these people. Yeah, playing. I love seeing adults that play. Oh, and also next time I would like to talk about your improv ability, especially with the story building with the kids.
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to.
All right.
We'll make up something on the spot.
That could be a fun one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Frank. And once again, this is Frank Morin, and you can find him online at
frankmorin.org or everywhere that sells books.
Wonderful. Thank you. And this, once again, this is Sarah with I Am Always Dreaming.
All dreams considered. All dreams considered. All dreams considered.